Some people glow like sunlight and some burn. Every zodiac sign carries its own kind of brilliance. But when that light goes unchecked, it can stretch into long shadows over our connections. If you've ever walked away from someone feeling drained or twisted into a version of yourself you barely recognize, even though they seemed magnetic at first, astrology may hold part of the explanation. Drop your date of birth and zodiac sign in the comments, and if you feel called, add your city too. Let's trace the patterns the stars might be sketching across our lives. Within every sign exists a spectrum, from conscious strength to unprocessed wounds, acting out in disguise. Toxicity is rarely just door-slamming drama or shouting, but often it slips in quietly, wrapped in charm, backed by confidence, hidden beneath intelligence, loyalty, or good intentions. You sense it less in what's openly said and more in what remains unspoken in implied expectations, in the push to perform, in the slow suffocation of the space where your truth should be able to breathe. Take Leo as an example. Governed by the sun, Leo arrives wired to radiate. But when that radiance turns into a spotlight they alone control, the glow becomes blinding. In their shadow mode, Leo demands applause yet withholds emotional safety. If you don't reflect their self-image back to them, you risk being labeled disloyal or ungrateful. You can do everything right and still feel like you're falling short, not because you failed, but because Leo insists on having the entire stage. Emotionally, it's like a monopoly. You either orbit their light, or you re-pushed into eclipse. Other signs carry their own version of this energy when they're off balance. Scorpio, for instance, can hide control inside what looks like care. Their silence can press on your chest harder than any argument. To love Scorpio fully is to hand over the keys to your inner world and hope they never lock the door from the inside. Their loyalty is legendary, but in its shadow form, it turns into possession. If you've ever felt as though love came with unwritten rules and impossible conditions, there's a good chance you've crossed paths with Scorpio in a darker phase. Aries, on the other hand, brings wildfire intensity, bold, direct, impulsive, and rarely subtle. Aries doesn't hide. What you see is what you get. But that raw honesty can cut. They'll say whatever erupts in the moment, loud and unfiltered, then move on as if the storm has passed, while you're still standing in what their words knocked down. Capricorn's shadow plays out differently. It's the cold draft you can't quite trace, the quiet, constant judgment that doesn't need to be voiced. Their expectations hang in the air like standards you're supposed to understand without being told. They may never raise their voice, yet their disappointment speaks louder than any outburst. Around Capricorn, feelings can start to seem impractical. Love begins to feel like something you must earn instead of something you're simply worthy of. Little by little, you start measuring yourself against an invisible ruler, and joy shrinks. Gemini, the sign of the twins, brings a more chaotic form of imbalance. Quick, clever, and curious. Gemini can become a master of diversion when misaligned. They skim the surface of serious conversations like stones skipping across water, never sinking deep enough to be held accountable. You might question whether they lied, when in reality they just never stayed still long enough to build something solid. In their toxic expression, Gemini doesn't burn things to the ground with fire, they dissolve reality with confusion. Leo, Scorpio, Aries, Capricorn, and Gemini are not born villains. They're among the most compelling energies in the zodiac. When they lack self-awareness, though, their intensity can turn into an emotional natural disaster. They often stand at the calm center of the chaos, at the eye of the hurricane, without realizing how many people are spinning around them trying to regain balance. When we talk about toxicity in astrology, we're not blaming signs, we're decoding patterns. These patterns murmur underneath conversations, weave themselves into relationship dynamics, and loop back again and again until someone finally names them. They usually grow not from cruelty, but from fear, insecurity, and old wounds that never got a chance to heal. On these particular signs project those inner storms outward with more force. Think of the emotional weather each of these signs carries. Leo is a heat wave, vital and energizing, but overwhelming when it never breaks. Scorpio resembles a midnight thunderstorm, heavy and magnetic. Aries arrives like a strike of lightning, sudden and shocking. Capricorn is the cold front, structured, bracing, and low on warmth. Geminis, the restless wind changing direction just when you think you've found steady ground. Relationships with these signs can feel intense for exactly that reason. Even when they genuinely love you, their presence might feel like too much and not enough at the same time. You may catch yourself over-explaining, constantly adjusting, or second-guessing your own reactions just to keep the connection steady. It's not always that they want to hurt you. Often, they simply haven't learned how to hold space for someone else's full emotional reality while managing their own. It's also important to remember that toxicity isn't reserved for so-called strong or difficult signs. Anyone can slip into unconscious habits. Any zodiac sign can wound. What makes these 5 stand out is the impact they tend to have. Their energy doesn't just walk into a room, it rearranges it. Their approval quickly becomes a measure of worth. Their disapproval can feel like a verdict. When they're unaware of their power, relationships tip into imbalanced. One person ends up intensely exposed, while the other stays emotionally out of reach. Over time, you may notice your boundaries getting fuzzy. You put up with comments that sting. You explain things that shouldn't need explanation. You sacrifice small pieces of yourself for peace, until one day you realize you're fading from your own life. So the question becomes, how do you stay connected to someone powerful without abandoning yourself? How do you keep your heart open without offering it up to be repeatedly bruised? These are the deeper emotional negotiations that astrology helps us name. If this reflection is resonating with you, go ahead and give this video a like it. As a way to mark the moment your awareness begins to shift. From there, think of astrology as an emotional map rather than a prison. You don't blame the sky for a storm, but you do prepare. You take an umbrella when it rains. You stay in the shade when the sun is too strong. In the same way, understanding each sign's temperament helps you adjust, protect your peace, and still leave room for love. In their higher expressions, these same signs are astonishing. A Leo anchored in compassion doesn't just shine, they encourage everyone around them to glow too. A secure Scorpio offers a depth of love and loyalty that feels almost sacred. A healthy Aries lends courage and momentum when life demands bold action. A grounded Capricorn creates safety through structure and reliability. An integrated Gemini connects ideas and people, weaving curiosity, laughter, and insight through every conversation. None of that magic can fully manifest when fear is running the show instead of self. This is why we return to these topics. Transformation begins with truth. The more we understand the astrology behind our emotional experiences, the more influence we have over how the story ends. By the midpoint of this emotional weather report, the takeaway is clear. Not all damage is loud. Some signs break hearts with unmet needs, unclear expectations, or love that suffocates instead of supports. Others overwhelmed with relentless energy that never knows when to pause. But none of it is random. The patterns are real, and so is the possibility of rewriting them. Protecting yourself starts with naming what you feel instead of dismissing it. That vague, persistent unease you keep brushing off often signals subtle manipulation or misalignment. Notice how your energy shifts after you've spent time with someone. Do you feel clearer or more confused? Lighter or heavier? That is your intuition speaking. From there, boundaries are your shelter. You might not be able to stop every storm, but you can step out of the downpour. While it's tempting to focus only on what others do, real healing also asks you to turn inward. Every sign, including yours, has a shadow. You may see yourself in these descriptions not because you're a terrible person, but because no one showed you how to wield your own energy with care. Maybe your passion has turned into pressure. Maybe your loyalty has morphed into control. Maybe your independence has become emotional distance. Self-awareness is the doorway to change. Ask yourself, what am I projecting, and what fear is hiding underneath this behavior? These 5 signs become truly toxic only when fear leads and love follows behind. Scorpio is haunted by betrayal. Aries fears stagnation. Capricorn fears failure. Gemini fears confinement. Leo fears invisibility. When those fears drive the story, the sign spirals. When they're acknowledged, they can be soft and reshaped into wisdom. So if someone in your world reflects these traits, or if you see your own reflection in them, take it as an invitation, not a sentence. This isn't a curse written in the stars. It's a call to become conscious. Astrology gives us language and symbolism, but we are the ones who must have the conversation and make the choices. If this video helped you feel seen, or helped you see someone else with more clarity, tap the like button as a way of saying yes to that awareness. And don't forget to subscribe to Zodiac News for more deep dives into the emotional weather of the signs. Until next time, remember, the cosmos doesn't control your life, but it does offer a mirror. With insights comes choice, and with choice, you reclaim your power.